There's two major areas of life that I think God wants us to remember today that He sees. The second thing that we need to be reminded of today is that God sees those many things that you're doing in secret. You moms especially, but everybody, God sees the things that you do in secret. God's a big fan of secrecy, by the way. Secrecy is not something that we should ever have disdain for. Secrecy is something that Jesus more than confirmed. This is what God really likes. I love the 6th chapter of Matthew because Jesus just begins to go from topic to topic, talking about different areas where we should strive to be secret. He starts out talking about the needy. He said, you need to give to the needy. He said, but you know, don't do it out there where everybody can see what you're doing so you get the glory. He said, do it in secret because your Father sees when you give to the needy in secret. He moves on from that and he begins to talk about prayer. He says, you guys need to pray. You need to have a prayer life. He said, but don't do like the Pharisees and go out there and pray and carry on so everybody can see the show. He said, go into your prayer closet because the Father will see when you pray in secret. That doesn't mean we should never pray publicly, by the way. Put it in context. And then he begins to talk about fasting. They say when you fast, don't do like some of these religious folks. Get all grimaced up on your face and pour ashes on your head and put on dark clothes and rip them and say, oh, look at me. He said, do it in secret. Do it in secret. He said, because the Father sees what is done in secret. He goes on and he talks about things like laying up treasure in heaven. He's talking about laying up things in an unseen realm. He said, don't do everything out there in your realm where everybody can see what's going on. Lay your treasures up in heaven. And from there he goes into the most popular part of the passage where he begins to talk about don't worry. Don't worry. He said, don't worry about what you're going to eat and what you're going to wear. He said, pagans run after those kind of things. He said, I want to remind you of something. Your Father sees when you're in need. You don't have to worry. Why, Jesus? Because I want you to have a revelation that I see. If I believe today that He sees, I will not worry about my needs. If I believe that God sees today, I will never fret about what I've done in secret, that I get no glory, no papers to put on the wall, no trophies, no awards, no recognition from the pulpit, no headlines in the newspaper. Because I remember that God is a huge fan of things done in secret. I like what the lady said. And I believe it, by the way. Because God would say, I've seen every cupcake you baked. I've seen every time you mixed up a batch of Kool-Aid for all the neighborhood kids. I've seen those times that behind the scenes you clothed someone, you took somebody food. You went to someone and you encouraged them. I saw it. I see it. God wants us to know that He sees these things. Jesus told a story once about some people who went to church and there were people with great wealth there and they put into the offering plates from their great sums of money, but there was a widow there. And she only had 2 mites, which was basically worthless, but it's all she had, and she threw it in the offering plate. It would never grab a headline. It would never be worthy of announcing from a pulpit. She would never get her name on a plaque out in the church entranceway for being one of the great church donors. But Jesus said, but I saw her. She threw 2 mites in and I saw her. I saw her. In Matthew 10, Jesus talks about the sparrows and the hare, and I've looked at that passage so many times. And I was reading it this week and it was kind of funny to me. He said, you know, I see every sparrow that falls, and what's a sparrow worth? A couple pennies, it's worthless. He said, are you not worth so much more than a sparrow? Don't you get it? If I see every sparrow that falls, I see the things going on in you, my children, the ones made in my image, the ones I died for. He said, and I see the numbers of hair on your head, and it just dawned on me when I was reading that. It's like, yeah, you don't only see the sparrow, you know how many feathers that sparrow's got, don't you? It just, one of those funny little things that just occurred to me. It's like, you see the sparrow, and you know how many feathers are on that sparrow even. God sees. God sees.